Okay, so what I want to do is I just want to do an overview of object-oriented programming as it relates to PHP. So I created a folder called Oop, which is just object-oriented programming, and I created a PHP file that's just an empty PHP file called Oop as well. So as code has evolved over the years, we have different methodologies for how we're going to structure our code, how we're going to lay it out. Back in the day, everything was procedural. At a certain point back in the 90s, a new direction was set to try to make things more reusable, make it clearer, more organized. So the idea of object-oriented programming became, and basically what we're doing is we're modeling our code after real-world objects. So for example, if we're talking about a pen is a real-world object, and a pen has a length, it has a width, it has a color. So those are all properties of the pen. So we structure our code in that way. And it also has different methods that happens. You know, I mean, you can draw. You can, with a pen, you can't erase. But anyways, anything that it's doing would be considered a method. And a method is just a function inside a class. That's all it is. So a method and a function are very similar. It's just one is structured inside a class. And sometimes we hear about classes and objects and what's the difference. And sometimes you're using the new keyword and when should you use it. So I think this is a good point to talk about how object-oriented programming works. We've been using arrays, all right? An array is just like an object. The main thing is it's like a dictionary, all right? You have a keyword and you have a value. So it's a keyword value pair. And with an array, we can just make up whatever keys we want and then retrieve those values back out. And when we're working on applications, sometimes that's a perfect thing, is I just need this key. I'm just going to make up a key called age. I'm going to throw the value of 23 in there. Or I'm going to create a key called sex, and then I'm going to put male or female in there. So that's how we use the array. What we want to do is we want to actually have something like that, but we want it to be structured. All right, so we want to know what data is being put in, and we can actually control that more, where array is really loose and it's not necessarily the best thing for that. So I'm going to start by just creating a class within this PHP file, and I'm just going to use a class called car, just because we all know how cars work and what they are. All right, so I'm just going to go class, and that's a keyword, and I'm just going to type in car. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a capital C for car. All right, so that's kind of a, well, that's one discipline that's used. Okay, so when I have this class, I have the ability to create properties inside of it. So what I do is I can make them public. And then it's just a variable. So I need the $sign because it's a variable. And it's a variable that's publicly exposed. All right, so for a car, it's got different properties, all right? So I've got like a color property. All right. It's got a make, right? Make model. Okay, so I've got a make, model, color. Let's do a year. All right. I mean, we can go on and on, but let's try to get the idea. Okay, so at this point, if I save this, it's just a class. And if I refresh this, I don't see anything at all. All right, so if I view source, there's nothing there. Okay, so what we've done is we've created basically a blueprint. We created a structure that we're going to use within the application. So a class is a blueprint, and object is an instance of that class. All right, so I'm just going to create a variable, and I'm just going to call it my car. And so I'm going to make that equal to a new car object. So now what we did is we've taken the class, which is that blueprint with all of the properties and the whole structure, the whole deal. We created a new instance of that and then put it inside this variable. So I always think about this like an architect, so before they build a house, they draw this whole thing out on paper. It's a blueprint. They know the rooms, they know the sizes of the doors, they know everything. So the whole house gets basically drawn into this blueprint before it ever gets built. This is our blueprint. Now, when they build the house, at that point, the house has an actual street address. It's a real tangible object, and you can drive to it. All right. Once we do this new keyword, it's basically creating a new instance of the class, and now this is our address. Our address is the name we gave it, so it's my car. All right, so we could have red car, blue car, green car. Those would all be different addresses or different names of the same blueprint, and the blueprint is our class. All right, so, and the same thing with the architect. I mean, an architect, they draw up all the schematics. They can build 5 or 6 houses off of that same blueprint. They just redo it and run through the process, and that's what we're doing as well. Okay, so my car. Let's fill my car in. So I can start filling these properties in. So if I do my car, and to get to the actual property, like in C#, you guys did the dot. In PHP, it's got that single arrow. It's just the minus sign and then the greater than symbol. And then you notice within PHP Storm, it's kind of nice. It gives you all of the properties in the drop down. All right. So I'm going to say the color of my car is yellow. And the make is a Jeep. Okay, so at this point, I've now filled in all of the properties. So if I save this and I refresh my web page, still nothing, right? So we're not doing anything with it. We've created it, we've filled it, but now we need to access it. So I can access this just like with an echo here. And I can tie it to a string. So I'm just going to do something like my, and then I'm just going to concatenate some in PHP, and then I'm going to go $, my car. So I'm going to go, oops, wrong language. All right, so if I save this, now if I refresh it, oh, I did not concatenate that, right? There we go. So this is a way of structuring our data. And the thing that's nice is we can now start to throw instances of objects into arrays, and we can loop through those arrays, and we can do different things like that, which is really super cool. We can also hit methods, and if we wanted to, let's just quick throw a method in, because a method is nothing but a function inside the class. All right, so I could just go function. Okay, so a car can go forward. And just like a function, we can pass things into our methods and do things like that. And I'm just going to echo here. Okay, so I'm just going to concatenate on a break, couple breaks. Save that. And then what I want to do is I'm just going to echo out $, my car, and then I can call my method. So I've got all of the properties, and now I've got a method here, forward. So if I save that, the car is moving forward. So we can call methods within our class. And actually it's within the object. We're writing them within our class, but we can do that. So the other thing I can do here, I'm just going to kind of make another method. Okay, so the car's going forward, the car's going backwards, and then okay, so I can do more of the same. All right, so I've got 3 methods now, forward, reverse, and stop. Okay, so what I want to do is I just want to add another property here. So I'm just going to do a public property called status. Okay, so I want to know if the car is moving forward, backwards, or reverse. So the way that you do this is inside the class. This is a property. So from within our method, this works a little bit different than just procedural. So if I were doing procedural code, I would just go status, and then I'd do something like forward. So we're just going to take that forward and cram it inside this variable. But we can't do this, all right? So this variable is not the same as this variable. This isn't a variable, it's a property, all right? So I need to actually access the property. So the way I would do it is I need to reference a keyword called this. because we don't have the instance name. So if I use this, it's going to be the current instance. So it's inside this instance property. And then I can reference status. So then I can reference that. So now I can say, all right, it's moving forward. Then I'm going to do backwards, and I'm going to do stopped. So now those properties are all set. So if I wanted to, I could echo. I'm just going to add a couple breaks in here just because it's getting a little, I don't want things to be on top of each other. Just going to put like a couple breaks here. And then I'm just going to echo out the status. So the other thing to note, if it's a property does not have opening and closing parens. A method has an opening and closing parens. So if I save this and I look at the web, I can see that it is moving forward. So if I were to comment this line out and refresh this, I do not get that. But the status probably should be stopped because it hasn't started moving, right? So what I can do is I can get a hold of the constructor. So the way we do that is we're going to create a function, and there's a special underscore, all right, which is reserved. If you go underscore, you'll get a list. And then you can do the construct. So when the constructor goes, then what you can do is set any kind of defaults or anything you want on there. So I'm going to go this, status. So when you first get the car, it's not running, it's stopped. Actually, I'm going to do a lowercase, that way it's exactly the same. So I'm going to save that. So we can do a constructor. So as soon as we do this new, constructor fires off, and then we're shoving stopped inside there. So in this kind of scenario, where we can get the make, the color, all of that, but we didn't do anything, it's not moving forward or reverse or stopped, by default it is stopped. So that's setting up our defaults. So I'm going to save this. I'm just going to refresh this. So I can see that that stopped is now officially in effect, and that's a good thing. But if I were to switch this and go like reverse, save that, refresh, car's going backwards. So anyways, I just wanted to give a quick overview of what object-oriented programming is, how it's implemented within PHP, how you can set up a class, how you can instantiate a class into an instance object, how you can set up properties, and how you can set up methods, and how you can tap into things like the constructor as soon as it gets built. So anyways, hopefully this kind of helps you understand how to use this. We're going to be moving forward in PHP. We're going to be using a lot of classes that other people have made. I just don't want you to think that it's magic. It is pretty straightforward. We can throw all of these instance objects into an array, and then we could actually loop through each class and each object and see what's inside of it. So anyways, hopefully you found this video useful.